You Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for another edition of the Orns 10-minute take on Queen's Park Rangers 3, Watford 1. Happy New Year to you all, fellow Watford supporters. As we start 2025, I do hope you are well and doing well, and that you enjoyed the New Year's festivities. If you celebrate them, if you didn't, then fine. I hope you are healthy and okay in general. But Watford were not healthy or okay in general on this, the first day of the brand new year, because they just were not convincing at all in their performance against Queen's Park Rangers at Loftus Road in a local game that saw QPR, who are roughly middle of the table, dominate and easily surpass a Watford side that didn't put up much of a fight whatsoever in this contest. QPR got a goal 5 minutes into the game, and that was really all she wrote. They doubled their lead by half time, and then in the second half, when Watford scored through Quadwo Bar, returning from his one-game ban to make things 2-1 and half the deficit, QPR within 2 minutes were back to a two-goal lead, and that was when that was that, so to speak. Queen's Park Rangers home and host, Watford still looking for answers, the defence askance, and the team without an identity on the pitch. That was the problem with Watford. No identity, no cohesion, and the defence that is becoming increasingly alarming with its lapses and its lack of care in terms of how it takes care of the ball when the attack from the opposition comes. Watford do not take care of defending against the ball, and when they have the ball, don't seem to take care of the ball either, because you can defend with the ball in attack, and you do that by passing the ball and doing it properly. You do that with moving the ball quickly. That's how you defend with the ball. You want to control the ball. You want to defend with the ball going forward. And the more you do that, the less that you get the ball picked off of you, and you are countered by a strong counter attack, and the less susceptible you will be to such a thing if you take care of the ball in your possession going forward. And that is as much a problem for the defensive lapses, quite frankly, as anything else is, because once the ball is taken off of you, your shape is compromised, and Watford's defenders don't get back into proper shape, and then in transition, they are overrun. And as they were last weekend against Burnley, they really got a lesson taught to them, and they were punished by Queen's Park Rangers, who weren't world beaters, but did more than enough to comfortably see off Watford. QPR, again, a better team than I've always, better team than their position in the table shows, continue to show that kind of improvement and easily dispatched of a Watford side whose defense just doesn't have any answers. There are two critical things about this Watford team right now. First of all, their defense, and particularly the fact that Watford continue to concede goals in the first 10 minutes of games. It's now four consecutive games where that's happened. You go back to the game against Burnley, where Watford conceded in the first 9 minutes. You go to the game that followed that, where Watford conceded in the 10th minute. That was the game against Portsmouth. And then you go to the game where Watford lost at home to Cardiff. That was in the 11th minute, I believe. No, sorry, the 56th second of the game. And then in the game today, Watford concede in the 5th minute. So Watford have problems once again, conceding goals very early in games. Now, they had this problem to start the season in a number of games, including the defeat at Sheffield Wednesday United, rather, where they ended up conceding in the first 4 minutes. And really, that was that. Same thing against Norwich and numerous other teams. Same thing against Leeds, twice in, I think, 10 or 11 minutes there. And now that problem is rearing its ugly head again. And that gives you pause for concern. It gives you pause as a Watford supporter, wherever you might be across the world, to see your team defending in such an atrocious way, a very haphazard way. They have abandoned the fundamentals and the basics of defending. The very things that Paul Robinson seems to have bedded into them over just a few weeks ago, where they had gone almost three full games without conceding, are now the very things that Watford have abandoned and put cast to the side as they are a very unfocused defensive unit at this point. And again, I would be very concerned about that. I am very concerned about that. And I think that there's more work that is needed by the Watford backroom staff. Some Watford fans have gone and told me things like Tom Cleverley should step down as the head coach and take a number two position in the coaching staff. And I've actually disagreed with that view. I think that Tom Cleverley should stay exactly where he is. He has a lot of goodwill in the bank, having gone 17 unbeaten at home at the Vic. And he also has got this team to far higher in the table than you would have ever expected them to be, that most Watford fans would have ever expected them to be, in being in eighth place, as I think it is now, as we look at these games after Saturday. And so Tom Cleverley, I think, has enough goodwill in the bank, even with an owner like Gino, that would forestall any kind of compromising of his position as the head coach. And as I've predicted before this season began, I think that Tom Cleverley will easily remain head coach at the end of the season. He'll get through a full season without any issue. But there's no question that Watford are in a mini slump at the moment. Two games in a row they have lost. It's only the second time under Tom Cleverley that Watford have won two consecutive, excuse me, that have lost two consecutive games, and that also happened earlier in the season. And so, look, that's a really good record still. Watford is still doing very well in the division when you consider everything that they've gone through. You consider everything that they have faced, and if you can still after everything, be eighth in the table. And I predicted, by the way, before the season, Watford would have finished eighth. I think you're doing pretty darn well for yourself. And so, no shame to be eighth place, despite all the things that happened. I think Watford can really count themselves as a team that's been doing very well. And by the way, Sunderland defeated Sheffield United in the game earlier today as well. So Sheffield United are officially in a slump as well. They've gone winless now in their last three. Two of those at home with draws and then the defeat at Sunderland. So, look, this is something that happens to every team. Every team in this division is going to go through a slump. Leeds and Blackburn played to a 1-1 draw today, for example. And while West Bromwich Albion were comfortably winning, Hull and Middlesbrough ended up winning their game there. And the bottom line is Burnley could not get past Stoke. So you have this where you have teams in the division who are right at the top who don't get the results sometimes in a lot of these games, especially around this holiday period. And so Burnley, even though they got the draw, are in second place. Sheffield United fall out of the automatics. And Watford are in eighth. They are 2 points off the playoffs, which still, with a game in hand over West Brom, is important to know. And look, the bottom line is that this Watford team are still very much in with a very good shout of making the playoffs, even though I don't think they ultimately will make the playoffs. Watford is still exactly where you would want them to be if you are a Watford supporter anywhere across the globe. But the defense is not where we would want it to be. And again, my concern is how we defend out of possession and how we defend when we have the ball going forward. Because you, as I said earlier, you can defend when you have the ball in attack. You have to take care of the ball. You have to defend the ball. You have to guard the ball. You have to avoid the silly passes that don't get 3 yards to your teammate. And then that ball gets picked off. And then all of a sudden you are going in a counter-attacking position in transition, and you have to defend that counter-attack, which Watford could not do against Queen's Park Rangers in this game. And Queen's Park Rangers exposed them time after time after time. QPR could have ended up with 6 goals in this game. As it was, 3 were enough for us to deal with. But Watford have not been good defensively. Our alignment and our positioning has been poor. Ryan Porteous has been poor. Tiers. And the defense has been porous. Porous defending. And we have 8 goals conceded now in these last 4 games, all ahead of the game against, well, Sheffield United, a team who, like Watford, are currently struggling. And that will be a very interesting game now on Saturday at the Vic. And really, for me, even though there's still 22 games to play, the game on Saturday is a must win for the Hornets against Sheffield United, especially after losing the game at home to Cardiff. Watford play up or down to the level of their competition, and I think they did that today, although QPR were good value for their win and well deserving of it. Watford have a lot of soul searching to do defensively, And it really does start with structure and organization, as well as the personnel and how players should be lined up. Ryan Porteous should not be starting these games now. I think that you need to have another defender in there. And if you put Ogbonna in the middle, or if you put Ogbonna to the left side of the three, Pollock on the right, and Sierralta in the middle, or if you switch Sierralta to the left and put Ogbonna in the middle, I think you can have a back three like that that I think is very solid. Pollock on the right hand side as he customarily is. You can have Ogbonna in the middle, Sierralta on the left. I think, or maybe switch that and have, as I said, Sierralta in the middle and Ogbonna on the left. I think that's what you're going to have to do here. Ogbonna, who's just coming back from injury, could well be healthy enough to start the game against Sheffield United. And I think if he is, he should get in there and give it a go. We missed Imran Louza, but Quadro Bar, I should say, was an absolute live wire, scoring the Watford goal at QPR. Bar, who had missed the previous game due to suspension, absolutely reminded everybody why he is a very valuable asset for Watford as he scored the goal and created a lot of different opportunities, at least a few, as a very potent part of Watford's attack. Only the rest of his teammates, though, were missing in action. This has been the U-Orns 10-minute take.